Next up, the Denver Broncos on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. The line here is 7.5. The Ravens are 7.5-point favorites at home. Over-under set at 40. Another low over-under. I've seen this over-under get as low as 38.5. It seems insane, but then you look at these two offenses. The Ravens have been struggling to score points. The Broncos offense at this point is one of the worst statistical offenses in the last 20 years. They are an abomination every week. They just got essentially boat raced by a Panthers team led by Sam Darnold, who is without question one of the worst starting quarterbacks over the last 5 years ever to step on an NFL field. And he was outperforming Russell Wilson with regularity. At this point, it's time to acknowledge that there's a very real problem with these Russell Wilson-led offenses in terms of their inability to sustain drives or inability to stay on the field. Last year with the Seahawks, we saw him constantly getting off the field. The Seahawks were last in the league in time of possession. Now we're seeing a very similar stat for the Broncos. They just cannot stay on the field. There's something about Russell Wilson, something about the way in which his teams just tend to go 3 and out so quickly. They cannot stay on the field. Until they figure that out, until the Broncos probably fire their head coach and probably clean house and probably, I don't know what it would take for me to bet on the Broncos for the foreseeable future. But for now, give me the Ravens minus 7.5. Even despite the fact that they have their own struggles offensively. They cannot get off the field. They cannot really finish drives, especially in the red zone. They've been just putrid. Lamar Jackson seems to be making the most he can out of a pretty rough receiving corps. I know they got rid of Hollywood Brown. I wasn't that high on Hollywood Brown as a receiver before this year, but looking at what he's added to this Cardinals offense, while the Ravens have continued to score points and have struggled to really get the ball downfield to any of their receivers, they're relying on just some absolute scrubs at the receiver position. Deshaun Jackson is their biggest playmaker, and the guy's like 42 years old. That is a problem. Even though the Ravens have made their fair share of mistakes, they're a tough team to rely on week to week. I can't bet against them here, especially against a Broncos team that is just, it's just gross to watch. I'm not going to go too heavy here, but that's a lean. Ravens minus 7.5 against the Broncos at home.